Okay everyone, welcome again to the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with a daily race B at Interlagos driving the Group 4 cars. I've decided to do this race in the new Megane trophy because I wanted to test out at a track where you need some sort of straight line speed. This track does suit cars with a lot of grip also, so it's kind of an in-between track that strong cars down the straights will be good and also the handling cars will also be good. So I wanted to test the Megane out here to see how it would fare against some of the cars that are a bit better in a straight line, and managed a reasonably good time in qualifying. This was the first race I did early on in the day. The time I'd set at this point was about 1 minute 37.3 I think it was, or something like that, and then I went on later on and improved that. But this was the first race. You see there straight away trying to get through that first corner as fast as I can in this Megane. So good at handling this car. It really suits the way I like a car to handle. It really is able to carry so much speed through the corners, and that's what I really like in a car, you know, the ability to get the front end in really early, and it really does suit my driving. So that's why I'm tending to test this out a lot at the moment in the Group 4 class. As you can see there, behind me I've got a different car pushing me fairly hard there. I think it's the Mazda, and a little bit faster on the straights. That car still not one of the strongest cars down the straight, but that car used to be one of the strongest cars at this track. But I just prefer this Megane, the way it takes the corners, the way it bites into the corners, and the way you can just drive it on the limit. And I feel like I can drive it on the limit easily. It doesn't feel like it's hard to do. It feels like it's stable. And I have to say, this is probably one of the better cars in the Group 4 cars for myself. I have also tested this out at Bathurst, which is not a track that it should suit, and I managed to get my qualifying time down to a 2 minutes 11.4, which although is a fair bit off, but it's only a second off the Dodge Viper's time, so it's still got some speed at that track. The only issue I have with this car, which I still need to test, is its fuel ability. I don't think this car is going to be very competitive in terms of fuel saving, because you have to rev this car at maximum to get the speed out of it, and it's got very little speed. As you can see there, riding on board with P2, and just look at the closing distance. You can see visually how he's getting closer and closer down the straights, and that Mazda is not the fastest car on the straight line. So it would be fairly worrying, I think, if you had a car that was a lot faster in the straights, but then them cars won't be as good as in the corners as the Mazda behind me. As you can see there, coming through the corners, I've managed to again push really hard and just so close to breaking that slipstream. It's really important to try and get it out of the slipstream, because while he was in my slipstream, I was under a threat, you know, of being overtaken. As you can see again, getting close into the braking, getting closer and closer to, you know, getting a strong slipstream, but he's just not able to pick it up because the Megane's got such good mid-corner apex speed. It's able to just increase that speed out of the corners really easily and pull away. As you can see there, we're going to ride on board now, 7-8 tenths ahead of P2 as he's pushing really hard. I'm pushing really hard also. This is my first race of the day. I didn't know what to expect in terms of race conditions. I felt confident in terms of when I was in the qualifying, pushing it, but in terms of just doing multiple laps, I wasn't too sure. But I was really happy with how this drives again at this track. Very similar to Suzuka. It's just easy to drive. You can get it into the apex. It's so easy. It is a little bit vulnerable on the straights, and that's why I say it's going to be a bit of an issue possibly in longer races. And this is the issue with the FIA. You know, I would be tempted to pick Renault for the FIA season, but then the Group 3 car, the GT3 car in that category puts me off a little bit, and also the fuel saving ability of both them cars. This car, I just don't see it being very good. I haven't tested it, but I can't believe, you know, you just look at the way I have when you're watching my laps, I'm having to rev this car a lot and fairly hard to get the most speed out of it. So it's going to be very dodgy. You can see again getting down the straight, the Mazda getting very close, within 4 tenths on that slipstream then. But then look, watch the difference through the corners. Look how much I can pull away through that corner there by really being aggressive. And, you know, again 3 tenths on that one corner, and that's the good thing about this car, because it's not the strongest in a straight line. But if it's got a fast corner, but if the track that you're racing has got a fast corner before that straight, you will find that this carries that little bit of extra speed, so you don't lose out as much as you think you would. You know, that corner that was coming up after sector 1 is sometimes an overtaking opportunity for some cars, but this car carries so much speed through the first centre S. It's really hard for any car to really get close to it by the end of the straight. So you can see again, I've actually broke the slipstream now, 1.1 seconds ahead, 1.2 seconds ahead. So it's just a really nice car to drive, and you can see through the corners I'm able to pull away from that slipstream, and then he's going to gain in on me as soon as I get to the straights. That's where his advantage will be. You know, that Mazda is very fast through the corners also, especially in traction zones. It's four-wheel drive, it can really pull out of them corners really fast, but the Megane, it's just got such a positive front end that can carry that little bit extra speed through the corners, which is giving me the advantage in terms of mid-corner apex speed. As you can see again down the straight, you can see slightly closing in and getting back into that slipstream as we go down the fast long straight, and this is the area where the Megane is very weak. It's a struggle down these straights. As you can see there, I stayed down the left hand side to try and make sure he didn't pick up any extra slipstream, as this car's so confident at changing directions. I was quite happy with going over to the right hand side at the last minute and then getting into the apex easily. As you can see again through these corners, you can just see it on board, the visual difference between the speeds that they can carry through the corners, this Megane versus a Mazda. The Megane is just such a nice car to drive that this is probably my favourite car in the Group 4 class. Now, it's not necessarily the strongest car, because I have seen some people saying it's overpowered, but it's not. The Megane is not overpowered because it's so weak down the straight. It's going to be an issue at a lot of tracks, and also the fuel saving ability. I can't see many people picking Renault when it comes to the official FIA season, and I probably won't pick it either, purely because it's, you know, I'm not too sure what it's going to be like at fuel saving. It all depends on the tracks also. If the tracks come up that, you know, not necessarily fuel saving will work at, and they're twisty tracks, then you might find a lot of people picking this Renault purely for the Group 4 car. Also, the Group 3 car can be competitive at certain tracks. It's just a case of which tracks. Sometimes it's, you know, if again with the Group 3 cars, if it's a twisty track, it can be competitive, but that low speed handling, which on the Group 3 car tends to twitch out, and especially like on Suzuka on the hairpin, it has a real weird tendency to lose the rear. So it'll just be a case of picking the right car for the tracks when it comes up. As you can see there, the first race coming up to the finishing line, I've managed to hold him off and got him out my slipstream, and that was a reasonably comfortable win and a reasonably nice race. You can see there, I managed to get the fastest lap of the race also, which was really nice, and you can see the difference between everyone else in the race. Quite a distance between P3 and P4 etc. as the other cars finish, and P1 just 1.2 seconds behind. No penalties for myself or the leader, and now I'm going to move on to the next race, which again, same track, same car. The only difference this time is I'm going to pick a different livery. I wanted to choose, I went on there, picked one that I liked, and came to the conclusion I was going to go with the Renault F1 livery that I've seen. It's a really nice looking car on this car. You can see it looks great there, starting again from P1. P2 again, this time it's a Mitsubishi Evo, and in P3 I've got another very fast driver, V Cristiano, in the Megane also. So going to be possibly, I expect it to be pushed a little bit harder in this race, but again, you know, I really do like driving this car. It seems my record in this car so far has been very good. I can't believe how good it's been. You know, I think since the first races where I was getting used to the car, the sprint races, I think I won about half of them. But then after that I won every single race at Suzuka, and the first race at this race went really well, I won it again. So it's just going to be a case of, can I win this race as well to keep a very good record going, as it seems to suit my style of driving this car. Again, I got into the top 10 stars. You would have seen my qualifying lap at 37.0 I got this down to, which I didn't expect this Megane to be able to get down that low. Someone actually managed the 36.5, but that was RC Miura. We all know how fast he is. I think he was about 4 tenths faster than my lap, but I felt like I had more in it. I just didn't really want to push it anymore. I just wanted to get some racing done, so I felt like I could have got within 2-3 tenths of Miura, which is good for myself because he's a very fast driver, but for myself to get that close, it shows how this car really does suit me. And again, you could see that lap 1 I just wanted to go straight away as fast as I can to try and get out that slipstream, because we all know the Evolution is a little bit faster than the Mazda in a straight line. It generally has a little bit more power, so I wanted to try and break that slipstream and just get out of it as soon as possible, because if he gets in my slipstream it could be serious issues. But look, straight away managed to break the slipstream on lap 1, and this is a key thing with any form of racing online. If you can get, especially GT Sport where the slipstream is fairly strong, if you can get out that slipstream straight away, it can really help you out throughout the race, because they're not going to be picking up your slipstream and getting the, you know, especially for fuel races. Obviously these sprint races don't have fuel in, but for fuel races, if you're in the slipstream, you tend to be able to save more fuel. You know, you have an advantage in terms of fuel you use also. I think it's a very small percentage you save extra, but it's still every little bit counts. As you can see, they're riding on board now with P2 in the Mitsubishi, and again you can see visually he's going to start gaining down the straights. But again, because of the exit speed, even though the last final corner is not really a fast corner, I'm able to carry so much speed again because of the brakes on the Megane. Look how late I can brake going into this corner, and then I can take a really wide entry. And as you see there, P3 just dives it up on the inside. And I didn't expect that move to happen, but it was actually not a bad move from V Cristiano. I just don't think P2 was expecting it and really wasn't covering the move off. As you can see there now, riding on board with V Cristiano, now in the same car in the Megane, and he is a very fast driver also, so I had to really be pushing and keep on it now to really test out my abilities to see if this car, if it's just this car, or if this car suits myself, because V Cristiano is an extremely fast driver. I've seen him pushing some of the fastest drivers on the game if it's in the right combination. But you can see there, he's having to go a little bit defensive to P3 as I'm just trying to keep it clean, trying to keep on the track and just trying to push this car. You can see a little bit of rear action as I go through that corner where I'm pushing really hard still, making sure he doesn't get too close, but I felt so confident with pushing this car. I feel like I can just push without making any errors, and that's what you want from a car. If you feel confident in the handling of the car, you tend to just be able to just drive its limits much easier. If you put me in a car that I'm not happy with, then like the Ferrari Group 3 car, I really wasn't happy pushing that car, so I had to drive it differently. But this car is a car that if you got on pole position, you would feel confident in just going for it and pushing the race and making sure it was a flat out race, and trying to avoid people from doing the fuel saving. Because if you can push hard, and people aren't going to really get much of an advantage from doing fuel saving, because in the pit stop, if you're 4 or 5 seconds ahead, it doesn't matter what fuel saving they've done, they're not going to beat you. Obviously for these races it's irrelevant because these are just sprint races, but it's a point to remember when picking these cars for the FIA. It is so tempting to pick this car at the moment, the Renault, but it all depends on the tracks and also the way that I'm not sure if there's going to be an update out before the FIA season starts, but what they're going to do, nobody knows. There could be something announced with E3, with the FIA season pretty much dead on after E3 announcements. It's a possibility that something might be coming out. I think it's tonight, that or early in the morning. Whether there could be announcements on to GT Sport getting a big update for the FIA. Who knows? Probably very unlikely. But if there is something announced, I want to see if this new tyre model is going to come out before the FIA season starts, because that could have a massive influence on car choices, and it's going to require a lot of testing. And this is why I personally don't think the tyre model is going to come out, because it seems so stupid to release a new tyre model this close to the start of an official FIA season, where people want to be prepared. They don't want to have to then repick cars and stuff. So let's just see what happens with that. As you can see in this race, again, look how much I'm pulling away from V Cristiano. I've managed to get that gap up to 1.6, 1.7 seconds as I'm pushing really hard. You can visually see it in the top camera where we're following on board with P2, and you can just see I feel so comfortable with this car pushing really hard. It just doesn't seem to, I just don't seem to make errors with this car. It just feels like I can drive pretty much to the limits of what it'll do, and I don't really make any errors, and that's what I want from a car, and that's again why I'm so tempted to pick this for the FIA. It just depends on tracks. Obviously if Monza and fast tracks, if Le Mans is on there, it's going to be a no-no, because this car would be destroyed at Le Mans. It wouldn't even be, it'd just be a disaster. Same at Monza, it's just not going to have the speed at them type of tracks. But other tracks, it's going to be extremely, really strong. So again, riding on board with P2, and you can see there, visually keeping that gap around 1.5, 1.6 seconds. And once I had this gap at this distance for the last lap, I didn't want to push so hard, to make an error. So I pretty much kept the gap around this distance now. As you can see in the mirror from P2, that there's P3 and 4 also fighting, battling away and pushing really hard. I don't think I got the fastest lap in this race, purely because, again, I didn't really have any slipstreams. I think the other drivers were picking up slipstreams off each other and probably getting the fastest laps, especially on the long straight. You can gain about 3-4 tenths on this track by picking up a massive slipstream. Obviously I'm not able to get any slipstreams starting from P1, so I've just got to do it by natural pace. As you can see there, comfortable gap to P2, P3 and P4 getting very close to P2 also, so very close there between the P2, 3, 4, and also P5 getting very close coming onto the final lap and going through the final corner for the final time. And it's another very solid result in this car, and I think since did the Suzuka race in this car when I did 4 races there, 1 or 4, and this race now I did 2 races here and won both of them. That's 6 out of 6 in this car. But I didn't race this car at Bathurst, even though I did do a qualifying run. You might have seen me in the morning. I managed to get the time down to 2 minutes, like I said, 2 minutes 11.4, but I didn't feel it'd have the fuel saving ability of that track, because you know, most people would have seen that there was people being able to do that race without pitting, so this car would have been pointless there. But again, you can see the ability it's got, even on a track with that's speed got half the track, which is a lot about power. The Megane is able to do reasonably okay purely because of its exit speeds from corners, so it's really going to be an interesting decision what FIA car I pick and what cars other people pick. I think Dodge Viper is still going to be the main car a lot of people go, because it's got a mixture of fuel saving abilities and drivability. But again, I drove the Citroen again at Bathurst, and the fuel saving ability on that car in the Group 4 cars is incredible, but I don't know about the Group 3 car, and that I've not really driven it, so who knows. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that quick video. I did want to get a double upload out today, but I wasn't able to. I haven't had time to really get the second video up. I'm going to hopefully get a video out tomorrow with 2 races again from Bathurst in the Group 4 cars. I'm going to probably edit it down a bit so it's not so long, maybe down to about 30 minutes, and just try and keep the action, because there was 2 very action-packed races. One in particular was really action-packed, even though my driving wasn't the best at these tracks. There was 2 very good tracks that are probably 2 very good races that are probably going to be very nice to watch, and a lot of battling going on. So hope you enjoyed them. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. I do upload every single day, so please check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks again for watching, everyone.